Scal, last week you kind of pushed back on me when I had a little bit of a negative tone to a question, and then I watched you post-game 2 nights later, and you were feeling some of the bad habits that were creeping in, and we were just sort of putting all the numbers out there about the Celtics that are sort of negative, that people are wondering about, like, hey, why do you have 15 losses already? Why do you already have 9 losses at home? Why are you a 500 basketball team? Are you trending toward concern about the Celtics?
I don't know about that. I do think they have the most talent. I know it's so cliche, like, the answers that I give with that, but like things like, why are we 3-10 after a loss since December 15th, and yet we're 13-1. We're 3-10 after we win a game, and then we're 13-1, and with a point differential of over 20 after we lose the game. So I don't know why they constantly get reminded of all that. I do think when this team is playing well, you look at them and you think they're unbeatable. We had that problem with Porzingis at the very beginning. When he came back, the net rating was down, but now the starters look really good again. So, they're kind of all over the board. I'm just assuming, like, best talent will figure it out, and that's kind of where I stand with all of it.
So, Scal, one thing that concerns me sometimes, and maybe this is just part of the champion effect, if you will, because you're always going to get everyone's best shot. People say in football, like, oh, playing this team, like playing the Chiefs, is every other team's Super Bowl whenever they play them this week. So it's NBA Finals o'clock whenever people play the Celtics. Is it me, or does it feel like a lot of players have had games where you say afterwards, like, wow, I did not see insert name of player here going off like that? The
Dillon
most
Brooks.
recent example, Eamon Thompson getting 33, and whoever saw Dillon Brooks having a 36 with 10 3-pointers, that concerns me a little.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The one thing I think about this championship team, and you can go in the past, and maybe it's not like that anymore, maybe since the Warriors. I remember how it was for us. I really felt like teams were afraid of us. You could sense it. Like, maybe they come out for a good 6 minutes, but you could sense that, like, they didn't believe that they could beat us. And that was when we repeated in 09. And some of those games, Kevin Garnett wouldn't even play, and we would still, like, I think, feel like we strike a fear in people's eyes, right? I'm there, front row, front and center, and it doesn't feel like the opponents are afraid of the Celtics. I felt like last year they were afraid of getting embarrassed. Like, you could blink your eye and we could go on a 20-2 run. I'm not feeling the same sense from the opponent. I actually feel the opposite. I feel like guys are really excited about going against us, and they're like, yeah, this is the TD Garden against the champs. We're going to show the world that we could beat these guys. And then you watch them the next night, not in the Rockets case, but in other teams, you watch them the next night and they just don't have the same juice.
Scal, do you have an explanation for that? Or let me ask it to you this way. How do you change that? I mean, is it just take a good week or a couple good, week of games where people realize, oh, okay, they figured out what they're doing and they're back to where they were last year at this time. I mean, how do you shake that feeling you feel when opponents come into the Garden?
Yeah, what's interesting is I don't feel like we play the same style in the first half as we do in the second. Like, our pace really slows down. We go into a bunch of plays. In the first half, it feels like there's more free-flowing offense and stuff like that. So I don't know. Like, no one's going to be afraid of our execution. I don't think that we're a great executing team. Like, you can look at some of our fourth quarter numbers when the game slows down. We're not great in those situations. So I kind of feel like we're at our best when we're kind of free flowing the ball, and we're letting our defense kind of provide our stuff from our offense. But we don't play like that in the second half. So I don't think that we're going to strike fear in people's eyes or blow people out as much if we're kind of slowing it down and executing our offense. I just feel the best thing that we do is move the ball. And in the second half, it doesn't feel like we move the ball at the same rate as we do in the first half.
So, Scal, one of the things that has been brought up is this is a championship team with veterans on it. And, when the playoffs come, when it matters, they'll sort of flip a switch. And the question I pushed back to Ted yesterday, we were talking about it, because he was talking about he thought in 2002 the Patriots actually kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit and then couldn't flip the switch and get in the playoffs. is A, who tells you when it's time to flip the switch, and when does that come? Is that, the last 2 weeks of the regular season? Is it just the switch of the playoffs? How does that actually unfold if that's the case?
You know what? I think there's only one answer to that, and I don't know if Joe is willing to do it. To me, it's you just play the hardest playing guys, and you just say, all right, we're going to go with the guys that are going to bring it every single night and the guys that are going to compete defensively. Very similar to the Springer against the Clippers. Now he was getting after it, so he earned his time and he got a chance to make some big shots. So,
yep.
If Joe is with our roster, if he just says, all right, you know what, we need to establish hard playing defensive habits. So we're just going to go with the guys who are doing that. And if you're getting busted off the dribble, you're not going to play. If you're not rebounding, if you're not defensive rebounding, you're going to come out, right? And until the culture kind of shifts towards that, where everyone's kind of fighting for those minutes, then I think that's really the only way to do it. And I don't know, Ted, you tell me, would Bill do that? Would he actually sit? Yeah. So,
yeah, he would.
And would it work? Did you feel like it worked?
It does. No, you want to get guys.
I think it works too.
Well, that's how you want to get a guy's attention. Yeah, bench him. That'll get his attention faster than anything, right? So,
yeah, that's what I feel the same way. And I feel like we have enough good players on this team where if you're going to bring it defensively and you let go of the rope, you don't crack back on the weak side or do whatever your responsibility is, then I know you guys are all pros and you make big money and all that stuff, but I think you got to go with the guys who are bringing it. At a certain point, maybe now is not that point, but there is a point that has to be the case because in the playoffs, you might need to do that too. And you kind of want to establish, hey, we're going to get after it moving forward and everybody's going to get after it. And we're just going to go with the guys who do that. And I think that could kind of fix this whole thing.
Scal, the other night, the way that game ended with that late defensive switch and then Joe Mazzulla taking blame for the way that unfolded, it certainly left Jaylen Brown in a vulnerable position. He looked unathletic almost. How did that play out? How did that play out in technically?
Yeah, so if you watch the Rockets end of game, they run that dribble handoff for Jalen Green, so he can get to his left hand, right? That's the play they were going to run. It's a zoom action to Jalen Green coming. So he didn't want Cornette to get switched onto Jalen Green.
Yep.
So I think he kind of overthought it, and I know what he was trying to do. I thought they were going to run the same play too, but all of a sudden he kind of told them late switch, let's put you here and you there. And they were just a little bit hesitant. And then so at that point, the NBA, if you're just, you have one tiny misstep, you can get busted. That's just how the league goes. And I know what he was trying to do. He needed to communicate it earlier, and those guys needed to commit to it earlier. All three of those things didn't happen, so that's what happened. That's not on Jaylen Brown. That's not on Joe Mazzulla. It's not on Luke Cornette. It was just timing of that needed to be quicker.
So, Scal, some players have struggled recently, and then they've picked their game back up. Nice to see Derek White turn it up a little bit recently as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, a first half with an almost no-show from Tatum, does that concern you at all?
No, he saw what he did in the third quarter. I'm never concerned about Tatum offensively. I would just say, I think we got to do a better job of just getting him going more, and he's got to do a better job of getting himself going. It's with Tatum, one bucket, all of a sudden it's 15-point quarter. That's what we have to work on with Tatum. I know when he could be aggressive. I'm a big believer in star players kind of setting the tone and then people following. I like the way that Porzingis has been setting the tone early on. But yeah, I think I'm a big believer in getting every star player going early. So I hope that Tatum thinks that, Mazzulla thinks that, but that's just my opinion. They might be in film saying Tatum's got to move the ball. I don't know. I just think I always like it when the star players, when Paul Pierce would take initiative in the first quarter. We always had Ray Allen, who was a high energy player early, but I like it when the star players set the tone because I think everyone follows those guys.
They certainly do. And Scal, last question from us. The trade deadline's a week from tomorrow. Some people think, maybe with Sam Hauser being injured, that maybe you need to bring in some reinforcements at the wing, a scoring wing. Do you have any, feelings about the trade deadline or a position that you think they need to target?
No, I think if they do anything, I think they'll just cut salary. To be honest with you, I don't, just kind of try to do whatever they can to, the whole apron thing and all that. I don't actually think, I don't think there'll be a big trade. I just think they'll try to. I don't think they think they need more guys. Yeah. When we're healthy, we're actually worse.
Yeah.
We need sometimes we need less. Yeah. So the guys could do more and be more challenged.
He is Brian Scalabrine, NBC Sports Boston. He'll be on the call tonight. Bulls in town against the Celtics. Scal, give me a quick preview. Are we going to be talking about an uptick?
20.
Oh, let's go. Win by 20. I love it.
Well, no. Look at the stats. After a loss, we're 13-1 with a differential of over 21 a game. It's a bloodbath today. A bloodbath, I say.